because running was like giving me the urge of needing to take a massive dump, but walking was a little bit more
Gentle
manageable.
average time someone spends between their symptom onset and to actually getting that diagnosis.
Hey, I'm Zeb,
And I'm Maddie.
and welcome to the We Don't Know Yet podcast. Whilst both Maddie and I are healthcare practitioners, we understand that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare. Should you require any medical attention, please seek out your local healthcare practitioner.
Okay, we are back. This time we have our headphones on. Thank you, Kenny. He is our editing master. And today we are joined via a
Zoom call.
Zoom call.
Yep.
That is the word. My words aren't wording today.
Nice. Bye.
Via a Zoom call with a very special guest based all the way in Brisbane. She is, I'm going to let her explain a little bit about who she is and what she does, but her name is Chelsea McCallum. That's all you need to know from me. Chelsea, welcome. Would you mind telling our audience a little bit about what you do and who you are?
Thank you, Maddie. Zeb, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I would be thrilled to introduce myself. As you know already, my name's Chelsea. I'm a completely virtual dietitian. I live in Brisbane, but see clients all over the world. And I'm the creator of something called the IBS Relief Program. So I've created a digital solution to people looking to find relief from really uncomfortable gut symptoms, things like bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, and all of the above.
Oh, so important. And look, I definitely feel people living with IBS, it has such an impact on their day-to-day functioning and their overall health and well-being. So such an important space to be in. Chelsea, we've known each other for quite a while and I'm absolutely in awe of what you do. I think it's amazing. And especially from an accessibility standpoint, being online is super cool. What got you into dietetics as a whole? Would you mind, maybe we'll start there?
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
I feel like I've got a very similar story to a lot of people. Absolutely love cooking, love baking. I would literally call that a hobby. So I love to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. And out of all of the subjects that I did at school, I found science and in particular biology the most fascinating. And I really had this strong calling, my entire high school life that I wanted to be a dietitian. There was no other job that really tickled my fancy that I wanted to go into. And I really vividly remember like the careers counselor saying, Chelsea, there's like 2 dietitian jobs a year that are available. You shouldn't study dietetics. It's not a good idea. And that never wavered my desire to get into dietetics because for me, there was just no other option as to what I wanted to do. So when I did my university preferences, I think it was like nutrition and dietetics, master of, dietetics, nutrition, sports and exercise science. And it trickled down into other healthcare sort of degrees, something like nursing, paramedics, but thank goodness I got into dietetics. And really, I haven't looked back ever since because you're able to mold or meld some of the things that you love, like cooking or baking and science. And I love talking to people. I love having that sense of community and being able to help people as well. And I just can't imagine doing anything else, Maddie. I wonder if you've got a very similar experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think it's so cool being in the dietetic field, especially in this day and age, because there's so many different job opportunities up and coming. Like it's really moving away from that traditional hospital job. And Paul's there, I can talk to him about it till the cows come home.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a break from today's episode to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Drip Digital. They manage all of our audio and video editing as well as our social media marketing. Without them, the We Don't Know Yet podcast wouldn't be possible. So thank you again.
Well, I mean, this is really good for me to even get a bit of an eye opener too, because I think in my kind of perspective, I come from that background of sport, like we always talk about, but I only see the sports dietitian side of things, or I only see the hospital dietitian side of things. So it's been really eye-opening for me seeing just how many different fields there actually are and talking about different topics that a lot of people actually don't really know about very much, So.
Yeah. So you were really lucky enough to get into dietetics, obviously, and went against some advice that was given to you, which I think we're all safe to say very fortunate to have you here in this world or in this space. How was the journey through uni and post-uni, and what was sort of, I guess, led you into where you are today?
Well, I think I graduated thinking as well that there were no jobs. So that was quite stressful. So throughout my degree, I did as much work experience as I was able to take on, and also maintain throughout studying. And then as soon as I did finish, I started applying for jobs, and literally anything that I could find. I applied for a lot of hospital jobs. I applied for a lot of private practice jobs, and almost heard nothing back from those opportunities, which was really disheartening. But ended up getting a job as a recipe developer in Sydney, in fact, with I Quit Sugar. And that was a dream come true. I absolutely love cooking and baking, and being able to go to work every single day, show up, research recipes, test those recipes, and then go to a studio to go and shoot the recipes, like just so much fun. And it didn't really feel like work, because it was, things that I really love to do in any case. And to see that whole production start to finish. Before long, that business had shut down. I needed to find another opportunity or job, and I didn't really want to work in private practice. So I'd reached out to some other companies that did have roles for recipe development, but also then looked more into private practice. Found a job back in Queensland, so moved back home, worked part-time private practice, and then did some ad hoc recipe development for people as well. And I was able to facilitate a week's worth of work that had a really nice balance between the two. But that's just going into generalist dietetics, seeing a little bit of everything, whether it's weight management, heart disease, cholesterol, prenatal nutrition, all of the above.
Yeah, wow. I didn't know you were down in Sydney.
Yeah,
That's so
did you
cool.
study down here or no?
No, I studied here in Queensland,
Okay.
and was only in Sydney for a really short period of time. As much as I absolutely adored the job, it was really disheartening when the business decided to close its doors, because everyone then lost their job at the time. And that was really, really stressful. Like, I only had 3 months or so of experience under my belt. I had just given up everything in Queensland to move, and at like 21, had no money, had literally just bought furniture to deck out a bedroom. And I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? So not a fun experience, but did really love my time in Sydney, and honestly would have stayed there if another opportunity had arisen. But seeing as there was something back in Queensland, it was convenient to come back home. I did so, and really, really happy now in Brisbane. It's sort of the perfect in between, in my opinion, of the Sunshine Coast, which is where I grew up, really beautiful, but more quiet, and Sydney, which has the hustle and bustle of a city. Brisbane has this perfect in between, where it's not too busy, but it's also certainly not too sleepy or quiet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely unrelated, but I love the little like lagoon pool thing in the heart of
Oh,
Brisbane.
something.
I know
That's
what you're
when
talking
I was like, when I was a kid, and every single time I went to Brisbane, I'd always go to that little lagoon pool thing on the river, and I was like, oh, the best.
Go mad for it. It
Really
is
random thought.
beautiful.
Oh my goodness. For that to be the highlight of Brisbane,
Yeah, I
it's a
know.
highlight for a lot of people, to be fair.
Yeah, well, see, it was so random. I was like, what is this pool thing, beach thing doing in the middle of the city?
Yeah.
I mean, in
Yeah.
Melbourne, they don't have anything like that. So,
It's too cold, that's
yeah,
why.
way too cold.
Brisbane does look really cool. It looks like such a young person's city. Like, it seems very social, lots of different community groups depending on what you're into. I don't know if it's just through the lens that I'm seeing it on social media, but it seems like there's such a large population of young people there.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that way as well. And certainly where we're located as well, big population of young people. I think the time zone, for example, and the climate really encourages people to get out in the morning, be active. So really love living here. Makes a big difference in the middle of winter, when the absolute minimum is like 5 degrees instead of getting down to the zeros.
Oh my goodness. And I completely forgot that I Quit Sugar was a thing. What a blast from the past.
Yeah, isn't it a very interesting start to my career? That's for sure.
Yeah, but even to have a role straight off the bat of recipe development, and as you said, following that whole process from research to creating it to shooting it to getting it, it all nice and pretty, and that's
Mm.
amazing.
Thank you so much.
And
Yeah.
I
And
really,
so what like I'm curious then to find out what actually led you into starting to reach out and work online, because obviously you said
Mm.
located back to Queensland, and now you obviously are based online a lot as well,
Mm.
and branch out all over Australia. What led you down that path?
Mm. Well, I guess working in the private practice that I was back in Queensland, seeing all sorts of clients, I did start to develop more of a niche, and it was into IBS, and we can get more into why that was later on, or maybe it's a story for another day. But I started to see a lot more patients in the practice specifically for IBS and was absolutely loving it. All along university, I had an Instagram page where I just posted whatever I want, you know, my smoothie bowls or tips on reducing cholesterol, whatever it might be, very generalized and broad information about nutrition. But when I started to see more and more clients with IBS, and I developed an even deeper passion for this space, I started to take that Instagram page down that narrow niche of irritable bowel syndrome, bloating, constipation, diarrhea. And at that point in time, there weren't many other dietitians that had niched like that. And the engagement on the page was fantastic. I started reaching more people that were wanting to book in for consultations. And a lot of those people weren't in Brisbane anymore, because with a platform like Instagram, you've got followers from the other side of the world, the other side of Australia, and they're looking for someone that can help them with that particular problem. So I started to see clients online. This was around the time of the pandemic. A lot of people were adapting to doing telehealth in any case. And I just realized that there is such a huge population of people struggling with these issues that haven't felt heard by their typical doctors that they go and see in clinic. They haven't even felt supported by dietitians that they had seen as well. And if they could reach out to an online dietitian and save paying for parking, they didn't have to drive to a clinic. It saved them a bunch of time because they could just get online, have that call, and then go back to work or whatever they were doing that day. I saw what a huge benefit having that online clinic provided for so many other people, my clients, but also it was super convenient for me as well. Like, I love talking to people, but I'm also a homebody, and I like to shut my laptop at the end of the day and then turn off for a moment and just relax. So online practice was really the way to go. And I don't think I'll ever go back to traditional seeing patients in a face-to-face clinic, because it does put so many overheads above you as the business owner. But then it also makes it really hard to go and see a dietitian. Like, for a lot of people, they don't really want to see us to begin with, because we might tell them difficult things and have hard conversations around habits and what needs to change moving forward. So if we can make it easier, I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I reckon we go there. I think that's really important that we sort of touch on, what drives that passion for IBS. Would you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about that side of the story?
Yeah, of course. So it really stems from a personal gut issue or personal history with IBS. And it's not even history, like it's still something that I deal with. And we'll talk a bit more about that soon as well. But that was sort of me dealing with, sensitive gut issues, and something that I just needed to get on top of. When I saw how many people were also struggling, I was like mind blown. It took it all of a sudden from something that I was struggling with to realizing that even if people were getting referred to the clinic for diabetes, heart disease, weight loss, prenatal nutrition, whatever it was, so often they had funky gut issues as well. And I would say, okay, so you're in here for cholesterol, but I've just asked you about your bowel movements and you're having diarrhea 6 times a day. Like, how long has this been going on for? And people might say something like, oh, well, I got diagnosed with IBS 10 years ago, and my doctor just said I need to just live with it. And I thought, there is so much that we can do for these people. We can, address your other health concerns, why you referred, but we can improve your day-to-day life so significantly. And that's what really lit the passion on fire, because there's so much that we can do from a diet and lifestyle perspective. There was no way that I could be ignoring someone having diarrhea 6 times a day or only pooping once a week. That's when I decided, like, it's time to niche into this particular area. I've got this personal experience, but there are so many people that just need some extra help.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that you made comment to like diet and lifestyle being 2 key factors that you can have a big influence on. When the last few weeks we've had some guests on and spoken about those low-hanging fruits that really do make a big difference in people's lives. They're just the basic things that no one thinks to actually talk about or educate people about these days.
Well, if you've just been told to live with it, you've had all the right investigations, everything has essentially come back clear, and you have been diagnosed with IBS, or your doctor says, oh, it might be IBS, like that advice is very lackluster and it leaves you with a few loose ends. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit that are super easy to go for.
I was just going to say, for someone who's not in the dietitian space, me,
I love that.
yeah, So I feel like IBS gets thrown around a lot, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
term that gets thrown around heaps, and I think people sometimes throw it around when they're not really educated around what it actually is.
Mm.
Like, is there a premise to make a clinical diagnosis of IBS? Because I actually don't know like what the criteria looks like in that sense of making like a clinical diagnosis for it, if there is something like that.
Good question.
Yeah, great question. And I agree that it's thrown around a lot. And a lot of people will say, oh, I think I have IBS. And the doctor might even say, oh, it sounds like it's IBS. And they don't really get that clear, definitive diagnosis. I guess the trouble is diagnosing IBS is really difficult. There's no clinical test that you can take. There's no blood test. There's no stool sample that says you have IBS. Like you could do a colonoscopy and get diagnosed with something like Crohn's or colitis. IBS is diagnosed via a doctor that has ruled out every other condition that could be presenting with those symptoms. So we want to rule out things like celiac disease, Crohn's, colitis, or that inflammatory bowel disease. We want to rule out other conditions like endometriosis or reproductive conditions that present with similar symptoms. We also use something called the Rome 4 criteria to then diagnose the patient with irritable bowel syndrome, which essentially looks at abdominal pain, their bowel movement frequency and consistency, and how long they've been having these symptoms for as well. If they've just been constipated for 1 week, that's not going to get them an IBS diagnosis, but it's got to be chronic. So it has to last for at least 3 months and have all of those investigations done before someone would get diagnosed with IBS. And as you can imagine, that can take some time. A lot that we can do in the meantime as well, waiting for that diagnosis. And I guess you want to be talking to your doctor and asking the right questions or asking for the right investigations to speed that process up.
Yeah, I think this is an important point to discuss as well. The whole perception of obviously people walk into a healthcare practice expecting a diagnosis off the
Straight
first
away.
consult,
Yeah.
and this kind of sets up that understanding and expectation that there's still things that you can be doing in the lead up to getting a confirmed diagnosis, even if that diagnosis doesn't come about for years, because it is a complicated thing that we have to kind of go through the motions of unraveling first. There's still so much, by the sounds of it, that you can really do to put someone in the driver's seat and give them a little bit more control.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if for anybody listening that doesn't even really understand what IBS is, again, I think it's such, as Zeb said, something that is thrown out quite a bit. If we were to strip it right back, what is IBS? What are some of the symptoms, not Simpsons, that might present with IBS?
Yeah, sure. So IBS, it stands for Irritable Bowel Syndrome, and we define it as a disorder of the gut-brain connection or communication. So for people that have irritable bowel syndrome, they might eat a meal that causes terribly uncomfortable gut symptoms because the way that your body interprets the symptoms and the pain is exacerbated. So symptoms would include things like bloating, excess gas, constipation, and diarrhea. So we're really looking at lower GI symptoms. Upper GI symptoms can go hand in hand, but are not often called IBS. So if you have a heartburn or reflux, 50% of people that have IBS also have GERD or reflux, but it's really looking at the lower GI symptoms.
Awesome. And so it's like things like the bloating, obviously diarrhea, constipation, flatulence. Is there anything else that might present in the lower GI?
Abdominal pain was one that I had missed. Yeah, so cramps, pain, associated with the lower GI.
Yeah, and when we're thinking about like symptom onset, I understand everybody would be so different, but is there a typical time of the symptoms coming on from eating something?
If you are having a reaction to food or FODMAPs, which are carbohydrates that we find in some foods, often the symptom reaction doesn't happen instantly. It can be 4 to 12 hours after you eat the food because FODMAP reactions happen in the small and large intestine. So if you're eating a high FODMAP food, garlic, for example, it shouldn't hurt you the second it lands on your tongue or the second you swallow it. It should be hours later. But if you have visceral hypersensitivity, then you can start to experience symptoms after your first meal of the day. And they can be triggered at any time of the day as well. So certainly working with someone that can take a really broad look at not only what are you eating, but how are you eating food, you know, your meal timing frequency, your fiber intake, and then other aspects of your health, things like your stress levels or how much sleep you're getting, and hormonal changes that you might experience throughout the month, so on and so forth. I guess there's so many different things that can trigger symptoms. Most typically, we'd expect symptoms to onset 4 to 12 hours after consuming a trigger food, but there's so many factors at play. It's really hard to give you that definitive answer.
Oh, for sure. And, much like any other avenue of health, it is so convoluted. It's never like this, single solution or single answer to solve the problem. But with
Mm,
IBS, it sounds like there's so many different avenues that you have to consider and explore to help
mm.
somebody or to find that relief for somebody.
Yep, definitely. And I like to say that people shouldn't be settling for like cookie cutter advice that they either get from their doctor, a dietitian, whether they find it online. Everyone really needs a tailored solution so that they can, alleviate their symptoms, identify their particular triggers, because one person to the next, they can be polar opposites with regards to what triggers their gut.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't wait for this this part of the episode, to be honest. When I saw this pop up on the run sheet today, I was like, yeah, this looks interesting.
Because it would happen to so many people. And as we sort of said off air, Charles, like you mentioned that it is something that people experience so much shame with, but it's actually so normal. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people deal with this day to day.
Yeah.
So obviously completely up to you into how much you want to divulge here.
Yeah,
But do you
sure.
have any stories that might be helpful for anyone listening that does experience IBS around, I guess, some mishaps being out in public and not quite making it to the toilet or anything like that?
Yeah, I've got one go-to shitty story that I love to share. And I like to share shitty stories because it does help normalize the fact that we have accidents from time to time. It happens to the best of us. Like, I'm literally an IBS dietitian, and it happens to me as well. And I know that it is embarrassing. And in the moment, it can be totally mortifying, and it makes you never want to go back to that particular spot ever again. But hopefully this helps to, bring some light to a pretty uncomfortable and undesirable condition as well. And like I said, I've got one go-to shitty story, but I actually have a new go-to shitty story, which is I'm the proud owner of two shitty stories now. So I'm going to tell you my most recent shitty situation, and it was, almost 10 days ago now. So it's still pretty fresh. You're the
Wow.
first to hear it,
Wow.
apart from my husband. So generally speaking, my gut's under control. Like, my IBS is pretty well controlled. If I ever have bloating or any issues, I know exactly what the problem is. So sometimes I let my guard down, and I had done this over the weekend about 10 days ago, had gone out to have breakfast with some girlfriends. And we went to a beautiful Middle Eastern Lebanese type cafe, and they do such a sensational job of their meals. You walk in, you can just smell all of the spices going, the olives, the paprika, the cumin, like you name it. It is just engulfing, and it's delicious. Shakshuka stood out to me on the menu. Yeah, it's good. Like, how can you go past it? And to be honest, I ate the shakshuka, loved it. And I was like, oh, I feel like I'm going to get a bit of reflux later today. Like, that was pretty rich. Completely forgetting the point that, hey, this is probably loaded with onion and garlic. It's probably higher fat food than you're typically used to eating. Anyway, day passes. I had planned to do a long-ish run over the weekend, and it was Saturday afternoon. It was overcast. It was like perfect weather to get that run under my belt, so then I could just enjoy a sleep in on Sunday and not get up too early. Halfway through the run, it was 10 Ks. That very specific cramp in my left intestine hits, and I thought, oh my God, this is not going to be good. So at the 5K point is usually where I turn around, and thank God there is this massive beer hall in Brisbane called Felons, and Saturday afternoon you can hear the music going, and I'm like, Chelsea, you just need to get to Felons. You can duck into their bathroom, you can pause your Garmin, no one's going to know that you needed to stop. Thank goodness I make it to Felons. I get into their public restrooms, which are sort of nicely organized as well. Like I really hate having a shitty moment in a public restroom. But anyway, Felons have some good facilities, and I can just hear everyone having the time of their life, like girls having, Prosecco, Aperol, having pizzas, whatever it is. And I am in that toilet stall, sweating bullets, having the most uncomfortable afternoon of my life. Still have my podcast running in the background, mind you. I'm like, I don't even want to hear what's going on. And I probably had to use that stall for 10 minutes until I felt comfortable that I could actually get out of that restroom and make sure that I was going to be able to run the 5 kilometers home as well, because at that point, there's no convenient way. I'd have to call an Uber if I was really stuck. Anyway, take myself out, the sweat starts to dry, which is making me feel more comfortable. I walk around for about, 200, 300 meters, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. Mentally clocked it in the clear, thank God. I had like 2Ks left, feeling really good. That runner's high kicks in. The moment I get home, second wave hits, and all I can think is, thank God I have just stepped in the front door, because it could have gone from a shitty, uncomfortable situation to one that was pretty messy and put me in a pretty sticky predicament. So although I guess it could have been worse, wasn't my best, wasn't my worst. So yeah, mid-run diarrhea, like I just don't think that there is a worse place to get it.
Why is it always mid-run? Why is it always mid-run?
The impact?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know,
think
but
there were
I feel
a
your
few
pain,
factors.
sister. I feel your pain. Gee whiz, like it's always mid-run. So for context for you, Maddie and I met
running.
We met running.
Oh, beautiful.
We're run friends.
Yeah. So this story really resonates with me, because we were training for a half marathon when we first met, and
horrendous.
There's going to be a few URC people that clock onto this podcast and know the exact run that I'm talking about. But there was one day where I got a brand new Apple Watch, and I was stopping every like 5 seconds to walk, because running was like giving me the urge of needing to take a massive dump. But walking was a little bit more manageable. And all the run club people were like running past me going, is everything all good? And I'm like, yeah, my watch is just,
I can't
my watch is just like playing up. I'm just trying to sort it out. They go past, I like jog for a little bit and stop again. And I'm just like hands on knees, but it's always running.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, it's weird. And there's something, was I running with you, or maybe it was Erin, and we got towards the end of the run and I had to stop running.
No.
And you ran through to South Cronulla. Maybe it was Erin. I don't know.
So funny.
It's just disastrous.
The mid runs, we get you.
We honestly
it's good to know,
with you.
and it pays to map out your public toilets on your usual running routes. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, your strategy there of like, we have to get to Felons, like you had that landmark in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
You must have run that run route a few times.
Oh, certainly I have. I think the most challenging thing about that situation was I'm walking into the bathroom stalls and I'm behind like 2 drunkish young women, which is funny. And then a mother with 2 young kids with her. I'm like, guys, I need to get into the toilet stall. No dawdling here. Go into
my goodness.
Make way. Because I don't think I could have held on much longer.
Sunday sippers in the line to the girls' bathroom is huge.
Isn't it funny as well? Like your mind, there's something about the mind of like, as soon as it knows that you're home, it can kind of let it all of its defenses down. Like as soon, like you can be driving home and it be okay. But as soon as you pull up at home, it's like, oh no, we need to go right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. You almost lose it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Obviously, it's very vulnerable to share a shitty story, but I know that there would be a lot of listeners that would have gotten a lot of value from that, because it is so normal.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I'm talking like every Saturday morning run.
Actually, you reminded me, there's this one service station that's like just, I reckon it would be like a kilometer or 2 where we start our runs usually. Without a doubt, every single long run, that is my like quick pit stop, I suppose. I'm like, as soon as I get there, I'm like, no, we need to go.
It's a sign.
I know, it happens.
It is the Ampol right next to Fitness First.
Oh, yes, it is the Ampol. You know, the service station. Damn it, that poor service station man. He just looks at me.
Yeah,
I'm like, look, I can't make eye contact with him
I'd
right now.
I'd also feel a bit uncomfortable if like every person like awake at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning was coming to my Ampol to use the bathroom.
Seriously, that poor Ampol.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Zeb, you'll never look at that Ampol the same again.
I never have been able to look at that Ampol the same again after my first experience there. So
Oh, yes, I'm not the only one.
Oh, you're definitely not the only one.
Oh, goodness
Yeah,
me.
not
Thank
good.
you again. That was very, very funny and very
My
helpful.
pleasure.
Do you share that with your clients, like stories like that?
I'd probably share that with specific clients. I've got a few of them that are training for half marathons. I've got a few that do triathlons as well. And when I have those experiences where I can relate to them on an even deeper level, I love to share that with them. But I've got to acknowledge that running 10 kilometers isn't relevant for a lot of people. So when it is relevant, I certainly bring it up.
Yeah, yeah, not just dropping in shitty stories like that.
By the way, I ran 10Ks.
Flex.
Exactly.
Oh, all right, Chelsea, I'm so excited. We're going to play. This is a newish segment. I did speak to you about it off air. Guess the health condition. For our listeners that have been tuning in the past few episodes, it's been something we've been doing for 2 or 3 eps, I think now.
Yeah, we've done a few. We've actually had it written down for a few other episodes, but then we just
Time gets away.
Yeah, time gets away and we run out of time for it. So we were like, today we're going to make a point of making sure we get time to actually talk about this and run this segment.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what you come up with, to be honest.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not very good at doing these though. I don't know whether Maddie just has the paid version of ChatGPT so she can actually get some better conditions than I can. But like every time I type a condition in, I'm pretty sure like the people have guessed it pretty well.
Oh,
Whereas
really?
like I feel like yours are very hard.
Yeah, I say, can you give me some like hard to answer health conditions? I make it really tricky.
Okay, maybe I need to up level up my questioning to ChatGPT.
You need to get her prompt.
I know.
Yeah.
For those that are just tuning in though and haven't, I guess, listened to previous episodes, this is a little segment that Zeb and I have introduced. It's called Guess the Health Condition. Essentially, we alternate episode to episode of rattling off about two. We're going to stick with 2.
Well, I only prepared one for
Okay,
that.
1.
Sorry,
Health
everyone.
condition and
Sorry.
the opposite person and any guests that we have lucky enough to be on the show that day have to guess what the health condition is. So,
Ooh.
Chelsea, we're lucky.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay,
Zeb,
are you ready?
Yep.
Alrighty.
So the word is aquagenic urticaria.
My God.
And I'm going to spell urticaria because I feel like I'm saying it wrong. Urticaria. And
Iridica?
yeah, iridica. Maybe let's Irridicaria. I don't know.
Iridica.
We're going to go with it anyway. Thank you,
Aquagenic
ChatGPT. The
urticaria.
clue is in the name.
Aqua, water.
Nice. Good start. Good start.
This is so much harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. I always use Maddie's first word that she ever gave us as an example. Her first word was like synthesia or something like that.
Oh yeah, it was pretty cool. It was when like you see an orange and you can taste orange. Was that?
Yeah. And
Or
she
you, like-
gave us no clue for that.
Yeah,
And she gave us no clue for that.
Okay, aquagenic urticaria, water.
Nice. Good start.
That's all I've got.
Nice.
Initially, my mind went to something to do with urination, but I think that might have been your
Nice. That's a good guess.
pronunciation.
Yeah.
And what was the
Unfortunately,
second word?
that's probably down the wrong pathway.
Wrong route. Okay.
I was also going to guess urine, Chelsea, so it's fair.
Okay.
Aquagenic urticaria. Is it a physical health condition?
Yes.
Okay.
When you touch water, aquagenic, maybe when you touch water, I can't finish it.
You touch water and you wee.
No. Good. Steer clear from urine. That was a good guess, though.
Thank you.
Another hot tip.
Chelsea, you're absolutely. I'm impressed. You're making a great start to this.
Touch water and you salivate.
No.
And your heart rate increases. Oh. Go on, give it to me.
Man,
What is that?
I don't know how to without giving it away. I don't know how to.
Go on.
Your heart rate might increase when you touch water.
Okay.
You touch water and you get aroused.
No, not quite.
Are we steering away
Heart
from the
rate,
reproductive
the
area?
stress.
All right. Okay. you get all panicked when you touch water, like you freak out or anxious?
No.
Oh my God.
Can you, Zeb, repeat the name to me again of this
Yeah.
condition?
Yeah.
Chelsea, doing well.
Aquagenic urticaria.
Urticaria. It's got to do with your heart rate.
Well,
Can you use it in a sentence?
it's
The doctor told me I had
yeah. I don't know if that works very well. Okay. I'll put it in the context of your heart rate going up might be a symptom of this condition.
You have a heart attack when you touch water.
Oh, that's intense, but no.
Your body temperature drops when you touch water.
No.
You
Hmm.
go into like shock when you touch water.
I'm not going to say shock, but you're getting closer from the perspective of it's like a reaction.
An
to
allergic
touching it.
reaction.
Oh,
Yeah. Actually, my
did I
friend
give that
had
away?
That's
Imagine.
that.
Yeah.
So random. How rare is it?
Yeah, it's pretty
Wow.
rare.
One
It's
of my
pretty rare.
girlfriends who will remain unnamed, went swimming one day. She always swims with her partner, now husband, went into the ocean one day and went into full anaphylaxis from touching the cold water. Doctors don't know why. It's now resolved. Very random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rare. I don't know if it's like a one-off thing or if it's an every time thing. I didn't read the definition. There was like a 4-paragraph definition
Wow.
because I asked for an in-depth analysis.
Wow.
But see, my questioning in ChatGPT is just well off.
Yeah.
But
that was
yeah,
good. I
water
like
a
that.
water allergy. There you
Nothing
go.
is
So
safe.
when I was thinking when you were like heart rate goes up, I was like, maybe the body goes into like
Oh,
a reactive state.
I hate that my mind immediately went to being aroused. It was
Yeah.
so wrong.
Love that from you. Love that from you.
We did well, Maddie. We got to give
Yes, we
ourselves
did.
I'm
some.
quite impressed. See, I feel like
points.
mine are too easy. I'm shocking at this game.
No, I think Chelsea's
That was
just really
hard.
intelligent. and
Chelsea is
some
also very good. She
education
really was on the money there
differences.
early. She was like something about touching water. I was like,
Well, Maddie, you got the water to begin
How'd you
with.
forget that?
Oh, okay. Now we'll go
Impressive.
back to the educational
Yeah.
stuff.
Back to educational segment.
Oh, so we've learned a little bit about your journey with dietetics and getting into the niche of IBS, Chelsea, and doing all the wonderful work that you are doing on the online space, as well as touching on some funny and very real and very normal shitty stories. For anyone listening that might be struggling with IBS, do you have any top tips or practical advice that you'd like to share?
I've got a top tip and a piece of practical advice. My top tip, if it is within your capacity, is to see a dietitian and someone that is, I guess, specialized in the area. Prior to doing additional training in IBS and FODMAPs, I had no idea what I was doing. And honestly, if a referral with IBS came in, I panicked because I didn't know how to help these people. And obviously it is quite a debilitating condition at times, and it can impact their day-to-day life so significantly. But since doing additional training, you level up, you can learn a lot more about how to help people more effectively and all of the different things that need to be considered to provide your clients with the most sustainable and succinct routes to finding relief. So certainly my top tip, if you have capacity to see a dietitian, but also someone that's specialized, and really that goes for any realm of health as well. Disordered eating should be seeing dietitians with a disordered eating background and knowledge around eating disorders. It should be said for all areas of dietetics.
Absolutely.
However, I appreciate that that's just not appropriate for everyone right now, in the future, whenever it might be. So my practical tip then for you is to start a food and symptom diary. Keep it on Excel, handwrite it, whatever works best. I find Excel is really helpful because you can really clearly line things up. You can map them across a week, and don't only document your food and symptoms, but document things like your patterns. Are you skipping meals? Are you eating a particularly large meal at any time of the day? Document things like your sleep, how many hours of sleep you're getting, is it good quality sleep, your stress levels, track your movement as well. Are you going for a 10K run and then all of a sudden having diarrhea afterwards like me? Or is no movement in fact triggering your symptoms? And then other things as well that you might think of that could be impacting, things like your hormonal changes changes or your period. If you're having any particular supplements, vitamins, anything new that's getting added in. So if seeing a dietitian is not available to you right now, keep a clear food and symptom diary for yourself, and then take that to your doctor or dietitian when you do go ahead and see them.
Amazing. And yeah, I definitely agree in the fact of like seeing a dietitian or any health professional who has a special interest and experience working in that field. If I got a referral for IBS, I would be way out of my depth. And I sometimes do and just refer on because it's just not my cup of tea. It's so many things that you need to know. And honestly, I just would rather somebody get support from somebody who is passionate and actually knows what they're doing.
Of course, you can't be a dietitian for everyone. I say that about myself all the time. And, clients love it when you refer them on as well, because then they know that they're going to get the best care moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, for anyone listening who might be experiencing IBS and is ready to take that next step, as you mentioned earlier, you are predominantly online. Is there different services that you do offer to clients? What does that look like? And, if somebody is wanting to work with you, how can they go about that?
Of course. Well, I think the best thing to do is to get to know me a little bit better on social media across Instagram and TikTok. My handle's IBS_dietitian. I've got a lot of freebies that you can download so you can get a taste of my approach. But if you're wanting to work with me, the most common way that I work with someone is through my private coaching program, which I call the IBS Relief Program. It is the A to Z solution where you're not just another number in a program, but you get tailored advice and support every step of the way. We have private consultations, weekly email check-ins. You get access to my library of resources. It is really there to make sure that if you need to do the low FODMAP diet, we do it once and for all. You never need to dabble in it again. We look at all of those other aspects of your health as well that can be addressed to managing IBS, so that you don't need to be stuck on the hamster wheel of, seeing small improvements in your symptoms, but never really getting that satisfactory relief.
Amazing, amazing. And we'll obviously pop all your details and social media links in the show notes as well. Thank you so much. Honestly, I think this has been such a helpful chat. Zeb and I were really excited to have a chat with you. When I pitched it to Zeb, I was like, we need to get Chelsea on the show. It's such an area that often isn't really talked about because of the shame and the sort of stigma associated with it. So I do know that this is going to be really helpful.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Maddie and Zeb. It's been a pleasure.
Amazing.
Thanks, Chels.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast.
Be the first to know when the next episode drops by hitting subscribe on wherever you catch your podcasts.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at we don't know yet.pod.
See ya.